Ladies and gents, welcome to a Shroom Life podcast. Today, I'm going to be talking with Armando Mercurio, and he's going to be talking about Victoria Trout, aka Dino, as in Ronaldinho. So welcome, mate. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me.
Hey, I heard that you've got a couple of interesting nicknames. So Dino, one of those.
Yep.
Must be an interesting personality. You must be in the Victorian trout scene.
Yeah, interesting nicknames. That more came from playing soccer rather than fishing. That one.
Yep.
So, yeah, guys I play with.
So you used to play quite a bit of soccer?
Yeah, I used to play a bit. Now I play more socially, just with friends once a week. So we have a team together, and yeah, my name came from doing all the tricks and the flicks and the fancy stuff that the professionals do, but mine just don't come off. Oh,
right. So a bit like, I know about the Harlem Globetrotters for basketball, so you're sort of like that in the soccer scene, amongst your friends at least.
Yeah, amongst my friends at least. But yeah, not very good at it, but I try.
All right. Well, that's interesting. We're going to be talking about Victorian trout, as I said earlier, and it's something that I haven't really put time into, at least on my channel. I haven't really chased trout on video as of yet, but it's something that I like to do, and that's why I thought having you on the podcast tonight, it's going to be wonderful. We're going to be getting a lot of tips, a lot of interesting and fun conversation. So, ladies and gents, kick back, relax, and we'll get straight into this podcast. So, look, I'm a bit of a motor mouth tonight, so I'm going to be talking too much. But let's just start off and let's just get into the groove of the podcast and fully introduce our guest. So we know that he likes fishing, he likes a bit of soccer, a bit of a larrikin amongst his mates. So why chase trout? What's the draw with trout for you?
Why chase trout? That's a good question. I don't know. I think it's more...
Is it sort of like the areas that it takes you, or it's the species itself?
I think it's a bit of the species itself, and also being land-based predominantly, because I don't have a boat or a kayak. It's just that you can walk for as long as you want, so you can get to a lot of places. You don't need a boat, and you can catch some good fish. And plus they're quite acrobatic, so sometimes they can put on a good show.
Yeah, absolutely. So I also put up my hand having no boat craft. So no kayak, no boat. And, I haven't really chased trout properly. I just go to some of the impoundments out west in New South Wales. But geez, they're like, I think they're more acrobatic than salmon, like Australian salmon that you get in the salt. They launch themselves out of the water.
Yeah,
Get your heart rate pumping.
Yeah, no, they do, especially when you catch like one of those really big ones and you start seeing them like half out the water, thrashing their head, and then the heart rate goes up and you're like, oh, is it going to throw the hooks? And it's actually pretty cool. And the little ones get some really good air. They get some really good hang time. So
what's the highest jumping trout you've caught?
Oh, I'm really bad with estimations. They jump.
Now's the time to exaggerate, we're telling a story here.
So now's the time to exaggerate. I'll probably say maybe about, half a meter.
Yep.
Maybe about half a meter sometimes. That's what it looks like to me, but I could be completely wrong.
Yeah, so basically like Michael Jordan out of the water.
Exactly right, like Michael Jordan out of the water.
All right, so Armando, what sort of a fishing background do you have? So did you start when you were young, or you sort of just got into fishing at a later age?
Fishing background. So I started when I was young. Like I used to go on holidays with family. We used to go to like Mallacoota and Narooma, Bem River, Alexandra, and all the time, really.
Yep.
So yeah, I've been fishing since I was young. A lot of bait fishing, and then slowly progressed to lures.
Sounds like you started off fishing a lot of saltwater areas.
Yeah, a lot of saltwater.
Brim,
flathead, salmon, trevally, pretty much whatever bit back then. So yeah, as a kid,
what's your best brim from Mallacoota? Have you been there often?
Yeah, I normally go there once, twice a year sometimes. I think my biggest brim from Mallacoota is from memory is 40 centimeters.
Yep.
So that's my biggest brim from there.
What was that taken on?
That was on bait, unfortunately.
Okay. Yep.
Yes.
What sort of bait? Just the humble prawn or some
No,
sort
it
of
was
live bait?
I caught I got snagged and I pulled up, I'll call them irukandjis, but they're not. They're just like those, it's just like a snag it had a mussel on it.
Yep.
So I just cracked open the mussel, put that on, and then, caught a brim.
Oh, perfect. Local bait works best, as they say.
Exactly right.
So it seems like you had a varied experience, and now that you started to get a little bit more experience and enjoyment out of the sport, you started focusing on trout. And yeah, we sort of talked a little bit about some of the reasons. So at any point in your journey, did you realize that this was, this species, you're going to devote a lot more time to understanding them and becoming an expert of sorts in that? Like, when did that transition happen?
It probably happened when I was about 19, 20, something like that. Used to go fishing for trout with a mate from work. And when we caught one on a lure, or when he caught one on a lure, he kind of got hooked.
Yeah.
So then we started it was pretty much, let's just go trout fishing. So we pretty much went there all year round up until close season. So that's pretty much the reason why.
What's the close season in Victoria these days?
So the close season is from midnight of Queen's birthday up until, I think it's the first week of September, Father's Day weekend, I think it opens up.
Did you know when you first encountered that trout that was the sort of species that could have been present? Or like a lot of people, they just go fishing and they don't really know what they're going to catch, and then they'll catch it or they'll hear a story and then they become enamored by that species. And then suddenly the whole journey just reflects that. They've just gradually changed their focus.
No, from fishing up there when I was younger, I knew in the rivers that there were trout there. However, when I was younger, we'd fish a lot in Ilden Pondage. It wasn't only till like later, as a late teen, that I finally convinced my dad to bring me to like the rivers around there. And then, cause I wanted to chase them on lures and I liked the scenery of the rivers and stuff like that. So yeah, probably that got me hooked, I guess.
Yep.
If that makes sense.
And about trout, there's like many species. What was that species that your friend caught the very first encounter?
I think he caught a rainbow trout.
Yep.
From memory. I think it was that.
And is that the sort of species that you're targeting these days, or it's a more varied sort of approach?
Oh, well, where I go, there's a mixture between rainbow trout and brown trout. I don't, like, if you go for one, you can't really avoid the other type thing.
Yep.
Like, they just coexist. It's like brim and flathead. They just coexist in the same place type thing. Yep.
So mostly those two species, that's your sort of target.
Yeah, mostly those two mostly those two species. Apparently there is brook trout in one of the rivers up there. I don't know if they're still in there, and if they are, if it's a rarity to come to catch one now. But yeah, there used to be brook trout in there at some stage. Yep.
Must be like a needle in a haystack sort of situation.
Yeah. Well, apparently, they have like hatcheries up there or something, and a wombat dug a tunnel into one of the, ponds.
Yep.
And they all got sucked into one of the rivers there.
Oh, wow.
So that's how they got in. That's what I was told. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But yeah. So just in case anyone knows the actual story about it, you can educate me too.
Have you caught a brook trout before? Or, other types of trout? Like, I guess I sort of, in my mind, I classify trout and, I don't know if that's correct, but there's like salmon and there's trout, the freshwater thing.
Yeah. No, I've never caught a brook trout. I do remember when they escaped, me and my friend were like, we gotta go try and catch one. He did catch one, but he lost it. It jumped off the hook.
Yeah.
I never caught one. I still try sometimes. Again, I don't know if they're in there or not. Maybe I'm just hoping type thing.
Yep.
That would be, I don't even care if I catch one that's 10 centimeters. I'll be happy.
Yeah. What was the latest trip that you went on, and what were you targeting? Where'd you go?
Not including trout.
Well, it could be trout. It could be anything. You might have, done a charter, or you might have gone interstate. What was the most recent sort of trip?
My most recent trip was a couple of weeks ago. I went to the Patterson River. I was trying to chase bream.
Yeah.
And I struck out.
Well, we've had heaps of rains, and I know Victoria had, I think, more rains than us. I saw the flooding, the news. It was about Victorian floods.
Yeah. Yeah.
That probably had an impact, I'd say.
Yeah, the water was dirty, and I'm not the best at bream at the moment. Still trying to not get my head around it. I have caught bream on lures, but I'm still trying to understand that more. So yeah, there's going to be a lot more donut sessions before I actually start getting consistent at it.
Well, it happens to everybody.
Yeah.
Bream is, I actually can't think of a species where you're almost guaranteed to catch fish. Even if you target yakkers,
yeah,
you can still donut. Like, I've had that happen. So let alone bream, which is a very smart species.
Yeah.
They permeate every system in almost every little sort of habitat. But sometimes they're just not hungry, and therefore they're really tricky. And a lot of people spend their whole lives trying to perfect and chase them.
Yeah. Well,
what about a big trip? Oh, sorry, I was talking on top of you.
Oh, no, you're right. I can't even remember what I was going to say, so it's not really important.
What about your last big trip? Maybe like a holiday sort of trip?
My last big trip was probably about 6 weeks ago or something like that. I went to the Glenelg River in Nelson. Again, I was land-based, but I was just flicking lures for perch, and I was just catching perch.
Yeah.
No bream again.
Is that sort of like a fish that you've caught before, or, like a bucket list fish, or not really? It's just something that you also do on the side?
It's something that I'm trying to get good at. I think bream and perch are my next species that I want to try and understand and get good at, and then probably after that will be the mulloway.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, so
mulloway must be on the bucket list?
I have caught one. I've caught it on bait. I did lose one on a lure. Actually, I've lost like 2 or 3 actually. But yeah, they're probably the next one after I kind of get better at bream and perch that I want to understand more and go for more and get a bit more consistent at.
Any other species on the bucket list?
The bucket list, for me, will be a queenfish and a marlin.
Right, yeah. I've not ticked off marlin, but I've ticked off the rest of them.
Yeah.
Queenfish is a nice one.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind catching one of them, so I reckon they're pretty cool.
They look amazing.
Yeah.
They fight pretty well.
Yeah,
they grow pretty big, and on the light stuff, you can land them on the light gear, so it's a good challenge.
Yeah, I look forward to trying to do that. That will be next year.
Where would you be going for that?
I'm going to Port Douglas.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I'm going to do a charter for GTs and Queenies and Barrow and stuff like that. So hopefully we can get a few.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Now, for those, let's just talk a little bit more about trout right now.
Yeah.
Is there one particular capture that you've had that's, like sticks out in your memory?
There's quite a few, but I think one of the ones that sticks out in my memory is not that I didn't catch it. My friend caught it. That's the one that actually sticks out in my memory.
Yep.
The reason is because I'm really bad at telling stories, but I'll give it a shot. He had going up to the Goulburn River, and he bought a Daiwa double clutch. And he was telling me, he goes, yeah, I'm going to try this new lure, the Daiwa double clutch. I'm like, yeah, awesome, cool. So we get to the first spot, and he casts it in once, and he retrieves it, and he just turns to me and he goes, I don't like this lure. I think it's hopeless. I won't use the swear words, but yeah, I'll keep it PG. He goes, yeah, this is just like poo. I'm like, all right, well then don't use it, change it. And he gave it another 2 casts. And I think on his 3rd cast, he turns around to me and he goes, oh, I've snagged it. It's like, oh, well, $33. I don't even like it anyway. So who cares? And he's trying to flick it off the snag. And probably about 5 seconds later or 10 seconds later, the snag started moving, and he actually realized, we both realized, because you could see his expression change on his face. He was like, oh my God, I've caught a trout. And he caught a massive trout.
Wow.
So yeah, considering he didn't like that lure, he caught his personal best of 64 centimeters.
That is some story. And you said that you couldn't tell a story.
No, well, I'm not probably the most best at it, but yeah.
So, did you end up going straight out there and buying some double clutches?
No, I didn't. I just stuck with the ones I had, but I did buy them like a couple of years later, so.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So, let's talk about like chasing trout. So, I've chased trout, not often.
Yeah.
Mostly in the past, but I normally do impoundment trout. So it's not, not the wild stream sort of thing.
Yeah.
I use hard bodies, I use plastics and that sort of stuff. But how do you go about it? Like what sorts of gear and
stuff. So I don't fish impoundments. I just fish the river. Mainly I fish, I don't know if it's classified as, I'm really bad with geography. I'm bad at everything actually. I don't know if it's classified as the Yarra Ranges, but it's like north east Victoria, like around Ilden, like Goulburn River, and like it's little rivers and stuff that feed off it is where I mainly go. So yeah, it's mainly river fishing for me. Just waders, walk, backpack. That's it.
Yep.
And a rod and a reel, obviously.
Yeah, what sorts of line classes? We're talking about rods and reels.
So a reel, I just use just a 2000 size Daiwa. If you want to know the name of it, I have it right here. It's a Silver Creek.
Yep. You can hold that up to the screen so they'll be able to see that. Okay, so as far as I know, the Silver Creek is a trout specific sort of reel. I mean, it's designed for it. I mean, the advertising and the marketing.
Yeah, that's why I got it, because it was apparently designed for it. But yeah, it actually has served me well, so no complaints.
Yep.
Line class, I fish with braid. Normally, a 6 pound braid.
Yep.
I think I've got 8 pound on it now because they didn't have 6 pound in stock. So I think I went with 8, but normally it's 6 pound I'll normally use.
What brand?
I think it's, what's on this one? I think I've got Daiwa J-Braid, I think, on this one at the moment.
Yep.
I like the Daiwa. Normally stick with Daiwa. I don't like something too soft and I don't like something too stiff.
Yep.
So something in between. And just mainly a 4 pound leader. Sometimes 6 pound leader if I run out of 4 pound, but mainly 4 pound. Just a 1 to 2 kilo. It's a Nitro Vapor. 6'6"
Yes, I know that rod. Yep.
Yeah. It's the one I use, just a 6'6" Nitro Vapor.
That's got a lot of power in that rod.
Yeah, it's got a lot of power in the butt. It's pretty, I think it's extra fast action, so it's pretty like stiffish sort of stick.
Like you can lean into it.
Yeah, you can.
And feel that it's got more give.
Yeah. So it does the job. I'm happy with
So like
that.
you 1 to 2 kilos, so you can flick light lures and it's got a nice bend. I mean, most rods say that they're fast or extra fast, but you really got to just use them to know how much they bend.
Yeah.
Personally, for me anyway, I find like different brands and different rods have different ratings. And the words might give you an idea, but you really, if you know you're fishing well, you have to pick it up and you got to fish it to know.
Yeah, exactly right. So that's the same with me. Like Yeah, same. Some rods say extra fast, and I feel they're more of just a fast action. But yeah, this actually does feel extra fast. There's not much give in the tip type thing. And it's good for if you're fishing the opposite way of the current.
Yep.
Like your tip's not bent like a banana. It actually holds pretty well.
So this caught my attention. You said that you don't like the braid to be a bit too soft nor stiff.
Yeah.
So I think stiffness is sort of one of those things that people sort of see as a negative, but softness, most people like a really as soft or as supple a braid as possible.
Yeah.
Is there a reason why you want something in between?
Yeah, I don't like too stiff. I think it just comes down to personal preference. I think too soft, you get a lot of wind knots, personally, or they wrap around your guides. And too stiff, I just don't like. So I just try and find something in between. But again, that comes down to personal preference. What I find is in between might be soft or stiffer for someone else. So
sounds about right. Normally when it comes to braid, like I said, that stiffness, most people tell me they don't like stiff braid. They like the supple braid.
Yeah.
And they don't like it if it's too fluffy after a few sessions.
Yeah, I normally change mine maybe every 2 years. It doesn't really fluff up that much, the J braid. So it's pretty good. But again, yeah, personal preference and what you think is too fluffy is different to me.
So with that sort of gear, you're fishing the rivers, like what sorts of, like I said, I haven't done any of this wild river trout fishing as of yet.
Yep.
So what sorts of places and structures are we talking about here? So on a particular day that you go out fishing, what are you looking for?
Honestly, if it's connected to the river, I'll just fish it. I don't care how shallow it is. I don't care how deep it is. I don't care anything. There's water. It will hold a fish at some point somewhere. 'Cause they just hold kind of anywhere. They hold in shallower water. They hold in deep water behind structure. So I know that doesn't really give what people want,
Well, it sort of does. For example, like there's certain, like firstly, I would be looking for areas where there might be like a deep pool, but it comes from like a shallower section. Maybe
Yep.
I'm trying to intercept some fish that are moving. If the current's fast and they're not moving, they're obviously sitting behind rocks, possibly.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
Yeah, all that as well. Like if you see any structure, like big boulders in the water, cast towards them and try and get your lure to swing in behind it. 'Cause the trout, will normally face into the current, or if there's a current break, they'll normally just like chill out there till something comes past. Deep. Yeah, it just depends really what you kind of look for. You could break it down,
Would you mostly be capturing those that are sort of resting behind rocks, as you've just said? They form most of your captures?
Not really. I've caught them like everywhere in all different types of scenarios and structure, like undercut banks, overhanging trees. That's another one because stuff will fall off the trees and they can line up. So sometimes if you catch one, you can catch 2, 3 or 4 out of that little place that you're casting at. I don't know.
Yep.
I know it's very broad.
Yeah, I guess it is broad. I mean, the terrain that you're fishing, it's changed. You're in the wild.
Yeah,
you have to have some level of adaptability by the sounds of it.
And I think too, because the river level changes as well, because it's coming from a dam that's regulated from a dam. So sometimes if the river level is really high, places that were shallow become obviously deeper and calmer. Or when the river level is really low, you can walk in and get closer to the other side of the banks in some places and fish different types of holes and things like that. So it just changes a lot.
That's a good point. So in the salt, you normally don't get widely varying changes beyond the high tide and the low tide mark.
Yeah.
In general. But yeah, you're right. So this is an interesting point. So you could be going to the same spot after a period of time and suddenly it's dried or suddenly it's X meters deeper than you thought.
Yeah, exactly right.
So that's sort of like a common expectation you have. Like you just don't know what the area's like until you get there, or you pay attention to the weather.
There's a number you can call, and this is just for the Goulburn River because that's where I mainly fish around there, and that will tell you the flow that's going into the Goulburn River. So you can, once you kind of know like the numbers that they're talking about, you kind of have an idea of how high or how low it is. And then from there, you can make a decision of where you want to go, what might be easier to fish, and stuff like that.
Would you say having like not so much as the area mapped out in your head, but having some sort of previous knowledge, it helps you to get your session kicked off and get results versus someone that's never done that area and they firstly turn up and they have a go?
Yeah, I think it does help because... yeah, like I said, just depends on the river level. You kind of know, which spots will, not spots, but which parts of the river that you can walk up and down on. You have maybe the most access to walk up and down on, where it might be a bit easier to fish or where you think fish might hold easier, and things like that. So yeah, it can help knowing the, terrain and how the river level or river flow affects it. What's
the number one characteristic or number one factor that you think influences success?
To be honest, factors like barometer, winds, moons, weather, any of that I don't care about anymore. For me, it's if I have a day off, I'm going to go. I think that's probably the way you might get some success. Just don't think about like water levels and things like that. Just go and just cast and learn, I guess. That's probably, just go there trying to catch a trout. Like, don't worry about all the other things that go with it because I just don't pay attention to it anymore.
What about seasons, time of day, or maybe even recent rains?
Well, recent rains, I'm pretty sure it's flooded up there now, so I don't think you can actually fish it. I think it might be a bit too
So that definitely
dangerous.
is a factor that's in consideration then. So
Yeah.
I basically gave those factors because I know that they're probably more likely to have some impact on, at least spot selection. If not, hey, let's hold off for another week or two.
Yeah, I think it'll be holding off for quite a few weeks. From what I understand, it's quite flooded up there. So,
time of day. I forgot the other factor, but definitely time of day I mentioned.
Time of day, I fish, I don't know, gentleman's hours, I guess.
Yep.
So I don't get up early. I normally leave. I'll try and get up there by 10:30. Time of day, maybe in summer it matters a bit more, because it's hotter. But when
that's a fair point. Yeah. So why do you think temperature matters? Like, just for those that don't really understand.
Well, trout are they're a cool water fish. So they like cold water. I think when there's those 40-degree days and things like that, it might, just be too hot for them. So they might be down deeper or in, shadowy places like under, wherever somewhere casts a shadow or faster running water to get cool and more oxygen, I guess. So yeah, maybe later in the day or earlier in the morning in summer is more productive rather than in the middle of the day. But that's not to say that in the middle of the day you still can't catch them. You still can.
Yeah, I mean, 40 degrees is pretty extreme, but, in Sydney we get 40 degrees every summer, and even humans don't go fishing when it's 40 degrees.
No. So, yeah, I normally stick to the cooler months now. I pretty much from March to close season is when I start to go once a week, twice a week.
Now, let's talk about lures.
So lures I mainly use like inline spinners. Like your VIC.
So what's an inline spinner for those that...
I can show you because I don't know how to explain it.
So that...
Can you
so
see
you can
it?
hold it up right to the screen. Yep. Yeah, so that is an inline spinner.
Is an inline spinner. So this thing, that little thing spins.
So it's got a treble on the end. It's got like a... I mean, it's basically just made out of metal.
Yeah, it's basically made out of metal. It's just got a treble at the end, and as you drag it through the water, that spins.
Yeah, so what do they call that? That's like a blade.
I think it's
Like
a blade.
is it a blade or leaf or something?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not the greatest when it comes to naming like freshwater apparatus, so to speak.
I just know it's an inline spinner, and I know how it works. So that's it.
I just know what it looks like in the water because I've cast them and I use them. But in the salt, you don't throw that in the salt, but you could, but you don't because they rust.
Yeah, they do. So that's all I know it's called. I'm not very sciencey. I just know how things work. I just know how things work and how to use them.
And you can like literally pick them up anywhere. I've seen them in even your local department stores.
Yeah, you can pick them up anywhere. So yeah, just use them. They're easy to use. You just cast and retrieve, and that's it.
And they're sort of heavy enough to just cast on even 10-pound gear because they got a bit of weight to them.
Yeah, you can get like they come in sizes. So I think that was like a size 1. So if you get a size 2, they're normally a bit heavier, and yeah, you can cast them quite far and quite easily.
Like how would you use that one in any specific situation? In fast-moving current, in deep water?
So I use it, again, I use them anywhere. So yeah, in fast current, I normally I'll cast upstream to start with. And just as long as you're winding it quicker than the speed of the water or the speed of the current, however you want to say it, and you get that blade spinning, it will work. And then I just fan out my casts, and I even cast against the current and bring it up against the current as well, which a lot of people say don't do, but I do it.
But if it works?
It's worked for me on so many occasions, and yeah. So definitely do that.
What do you think makes that lure effective? Like for you in the way that you use it? Is it the flash, or is it one of the lures that sits in the current a bit better when it's flowing and you can get it in the strike zone? What makes that spinner a good choice for you?
It just works. It's just caught me fish in the past. Like I said, I don't know the science behind some of these things. It's just, it works. It accounts for quite a lot of fish.
Yep.
So everyone, they're simple to use, and I don't really know what to say.
Any specific colors that you like?
I normally get like between, there's heaps of colors, but gold and, I think it's gold with red spots, silver with red or black spots, and black with like red spots or just black. They're probably my favorite colors that I like to use.
Silvers, golds, reds, and spots of various colors.
Yeah. In the clearer water, I'll normally use like gold with red. If it's dirtier water or a darker day, I'll probably go like the black. And the silver one, it's just mainly whenever. Like that's just if the other two aren't really working, I'll try that. But, if they're not working, I'll switch to a hard body or something else.
What about some other lures?
Some other lures. So, Rapalas. So like something like that. Can you see it?
Yes. Is that a Rapala countdown?
So this one's a floating Rapala.
Yep.
5 centimeter, and then this one's the countdown.
Oh yes, I recognize. It was sort of looked similar shape.
Yeah.
Do you know what the other one was?
It's a floating, an F. So it's the same shape, kind of. But this one floats, this one sinks.
Ah yes, that's
this
right.
One
yeah,
sinks. This one.
That
floats.
one, yeah. So the countdown is is it sinking or suspending? It's one of those. It definitely doesn't come back up.
No, it's sinking. Sinking.
Yeah, because I've actually, with my limited experience, I've caught trout on that. So
Yeah, no, the sinking ones are grouse. You can tell
caught some bows, guys.
the sinking ones have a split ring on the end of the nose,
Yep.
and they're a bit fatter in body, and the floating ones don't have a split ring on the nose. It's just the nose with the loop thing.
Yep.
Yeah, so
What colors were they? I mean, they didn't come out too clear.
no,
It looked green with a red.
Yeah, so this one, the floating one, this one's a brook trout pattern. It's got green, orange, bit of black on top with some spots.
Yep.
Don't know how you can.
Yeah, that's much better. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's that one. And then this one was a brown trout pattern. Just looks like a brown trout. It's white underneath with a bit of brown, goes a bit darker on top with some spots.
Yep.
So, yeah. They're something I use as well. They're good old Rapalas. I reckon they work really well. And in terms of sizes,
So they're wooden, aren't they?
yeah, they're wooden. Yeah, they're definitely wooden.
You prefer wooden lures over plastic?
No, I don't really have a preference. The Rapalas always seem to work, especially in high flowing current. If you're fishing them backwards, like against the current, I think they.
Oh yes, yep, that makes sense.
They swim well and they don't really blow out or
Yep.
anything like that. So they hold well. Sizes, I think I normally use from like a 3 centimeter all the way up to 11.
That's pretty big.
Yeah. So I'll use up to an 11. Yeah, but there's other ones as well, like the bullet lure, which I can't get.
So you're using the 11 when you're targeting big models, or is it like another reason? Like, do small trout hit the big ones?
Yeah, small trout hit the big ones as well. They all seem to hit it. I'll normally start off like between a 5 and a 7 if I use a hard body.
Yeah.
And then I'll go from there. If I'm not getting anything or seeing anyone chase or any hits, I'll either go to the really small one or to the really big one to try and piss them off.
Yep. So you're trying to aggravate them, trying to provoke a reactionary bite of sorts.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's my guess as to why they might be taking the big one.
Yeah.
Because some of them, they're almost as big as the lure and they take it. So I'm like, well,
yeah,
obviously not. I don't think you're trying to eat this, but whatever.
Yeah.
Good luck to you.
So I've got a question leading on from that. So trout, I noticed that these lures are in the patterns of trout that you're targeting. So far I've noticed that those colors, they resemble trout, basically, your target species, or at least of the same family. Is that sort of like because they're cannibalistic or territorial and that's why it works? What's your thoughts on that? Now, I know you said you're not too much into the science part, but what's your feeling? That's all we're here for. We're just discussing what you feel like.
All right. I personally, it's just because that's pretty much what you can buy at the shops.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, fair enough.
So they all got like trout patterns. I do have some other ones in like other patterns, like from other brands, but generally I do like to stick to the trouty patterns myself. So for what reason, I don't know. It's just how I like to do things, I guess. I think it's, like everyone says, the lures, colours attract the fisherman, not the fish. So
yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
It's probably a mixture. I mean, territorial reasons are always valid.
Yeah, I think that can help. I have a lot of people have told me, well, people who actually are better than me at trout fishing, that when it's like spawning season, use a lot of reds and oranges, like with spots. I think it's to imitate, so if anyone's listening that actually knows about trout, don't kill me for this. I think it's because of like aggression reasons, maybe it looks like a spawning trout or something in their territory.
I think you're right. I've got some thoughts on that, but I think you're not far off. But I mean, these colors work well, especially around that time.
Yeah, they do. So yeah, even on the spinners, if you have anything with red on it or red spots, use them as well. I think, I don't know if they're meant to represent like an egg or something that's floating down the river as well. So yeah.
An eagle, did you say? I was just, that caught my attention.
An eagle?
Yeah, did you say that? Was that what you said?
No. I don't know. No, like, they're meant to represent like eggs.
Oh, okay. Eggs.
Fish
yes,
eggs.
okay.
Trout eggs.
I don't know where my mind was there.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's, I don't know how a spinner represents that, but it works. So I'm not going to argue it.
Any other lures?
Well, double clutch.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
You know, the podcast has come full circle now.
That's exactly right. You got to have one of these in there after I saw what happened then. The bullet lures, they're cool as well. They work.
What's a bullet lure? That I'm not aware of.
The brand is bullet lure.
Oh, okay, so it's a brand. Yep.
Yeah, so it's a brand, and you can get them in sinking, floating, rattling, and silent, I think.
So is that another diver of sorts?
So they're another. Yeah, some are sinking, some are floating. So it's just a different color, different shape to the Rapalas, I guess. I've got like the Atomics.
Sounds like a lot of hard bodies in there.
There's heaps, and
they're all tangled.
They're all tangled. Let's see if I can get one.
Yeah, it's like me. I just throw them in a box.
Exactly right. Just okay. I'll give you two, like that.
Two of the same lures.
Yeah, so two Atomics, different colors, but they're. I don't know if these are suspending, but they don't dive very deep. So in like the shallower water and stuff like that. Yep. Just to change it up. Are they
sort of like a twitch bait? I mean, do you twitch those ones? Because they got a shallower bib. They won't stay, like you said, they don't dive very deep.
No, these are more of like they are more of a twitching type bait. But however, I just do normally slow roll them, or if I do slow roll them, I will put some twitches in there as well. So I don't generally pause for trout. Try not to pause it. You'll notice if there is one chasing your lure and you stop it, a lot of the times I'll just sit behind it and look at it, and then they might just go away, like they lose interest for some reason. It's not to say that you can't catch them on a pause, because you still can, but I think it's it's not like you're chasing brim. Like, so the pauses aren't always beneficial.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'll just try and keep it moving as much as I can.
Now, I noticed you haven't nominated any soft plastics.
I do have a pack with me. I do use them sometimes, but they're not my favorite thing to use. I'm not that good with them, and I haven't caught many trout with them, so I normally tend to stick with hard bodies and inline spinners.
Right, so basically it's more of it's like an ability to produce the correct action. You're finding it more difficult to get what you want out of that lure, so you'd rather use a hard body. I
think for me, for some reason, soft plastics and trout fishing, it just doesn't make really much sense. Like, it's just not that enjoyable, like using soft plastics for brim or flathead or things like that. So I think I get bored easily with them. I think that's really just the reason why I don't really use them, but I do have them. Yep. But it's just something that if I put it on, it just doesn't hold my attention for some reason.
Valid reasons.
Yeah. So, sorry.
So for that, so for those that want to know whether soft plastics are any good, that's basically how I've caught most of my trout. So, I mean, there's a will, there's a way. If you want to make it work, you can make it work. But hard bodies are very fun, I have to admit.
Yeah. There are a lot of people who use soft plastics. There are a lot of people who have a lot of success with soft plastics. Like I said, I have used them. I've bought maybe like 2 or 3 trout on them, but again, they just don't hold my attention enough for me to learn it and want to know about it, unfortunately. But I do try. I am trying.
I think this is probably a good time to loop back to that question on, now that we've kind of looked at, the sorts of lures that we've been, talking about here, what sorts of structure and how would you apply it?
So if I'm fishing somewhere where it's, say, I don't know, maybe visibly around about 1 meter deep, and it's just all pebbly and rocky, we kind of like, doesn't really matter on the water speed, but like not really that quick. I would probably use like inline spinners, floating or shallow diving hard bodies, or even like if they are holding the bottom more and they're not really coming up for them, you can even use your deep diving hard bodies, except for a double clutch. They just, anywhere there's a gap in a rock, it will just slide itself right in and you just can't. You have to start wading in to get them out. And then like in deeper pools, again, just depending on how the trout is sitting, but if they're deeper, I'd normally try and put on something like a countdown or something that will dive a little bit deeper, just to try and get down there. And yeah, anything where there's overhanging trees, anywhere where there's a boulder in the water, or where there's like a current break, weed patches, float an inline spinner over them, or a shallow diving, or a floating Rapala. Just go really slow. It's just as long as it's moving, they'll come out from under the shadows of the weed and they'll
smash your lure.
They'll smash your lure. In saying all that though, just mix and match. Like even though there's a deep hole and you're putting it on a deep diving lure, try things that are like halfway through the water column or even higher up in the water column, because they might be higher in the water column. So, and same with shallow water, even though you can see it's 1 meter deep, I've had it where, it's about 1 meter deep, you're using a floating lure, it's only going halfway down, They're not attacking it. Then I'll put something that's actually hitting the bottom of the rocks, and then all of a sudden I've caught like 2 or 3 trout. So
nice.
It's more of a mix and match type thing. So yeah, but that's probably like the general rule: deeper lures, and then just mix it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, you gave me an idea for the next question, and that's about gear. You mentioned waders, so I haven't talked about any of the standard equipment that someone would need to fish rivers for trout. Waders, definitely. Either a set of hip waders, or the full, like the chest waders. Yeah. Just a pair of them. It's up to you how expensive or how cheap you want to go, but get yourself a pair of them. Otherwise, if you like to wade across the river, if you want to wade across, or it can be muddy and things like that. So, and there's a lot of cow poo. So, yeah.
So it's probably good for that, and to protect yourself from snakes as well. A bit of added protection. I wouldn't bet my life that waders would protect you fully from snakes, but I don't want to try either. But at least you got that little bit of added thickness, I guess.
That's the main danger, isn't it? So for someone that's inexperienced and they head off to these areas, snakes, obviously number one.
I think I've come across everything that, like, a lot of wildlife, and all of them have attacked me. So I've been charged by cows and bulls. I've been round up by wombats, and I haven't been attacked by snakes, but I have seen them.
Right.
So out of all of them, the snake's actually been the less dangerous.
It does sound like that might be the case. So what's the story behind these charging bulls and cattle?
I don't know what it is with cattle and me. I just avoid them now. I've had them where I've just been walking, because you walk through a lot of paddocks and things like that, and like they're eating or they're minding their own business and whatever. And, you know, you have to kind of walk past them, or you're got to go in their direction. And yeah, sometimes like you mind your own business, you try and be as like, I'm not here, don't look at me type thing, like not aggressive, nothing like that. And then they just look at you, and then he's like, they've done the whole thing with the foot, like as if I was like,
they're scraping that ground.
The scraping thing, and I was looking at him like, are you serious? And then it started charging. Then I had to turn around in waders and just start running with like a lure just bouncing off the grass and things like that. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to die. So that was one. And then the other one was in a paddock full of bulls. My friend left me.
He left you for dead.
He left me for dead. I had to make a run for it to the fence, because he ran before I did.
Yeah.
But he ran on a diagonal, like towards the bulls, and they ran towards him. So it closed the gap on me.
Yeah. And
I didn't know he had left me. I turned around to say to him, like, calm down. Otherwise I'm going to poo my pants once you, like, if you panic. And I turned around, he wasn't there, and I've just seen him. He was gone over the fence. I was like, oh, so then I started shitting myself, and I just ran and jumped over the fence as quick as I could.
Yeah, you just had to leg it.
I just had to leg it in waders. So, yeah, be careful for the cows. Don't annoy them.
Wow.
Unless it's just me, I don't know.
What about the wombat?
The wombat was, we were walking, same friend. We were walking down the river, and there was a wombat just like chilling. And so I kind of walked next to him. I'm like, oh, cool, wombat. Like, it's so cute. And then walked away. Like, didn't really want to scare it or anything, but it, we probably got about 15, 20 meters away from it, and we could like hear something behind us, and we turned around, and this wombat was charging towards us.
Yep.
So I was a bit scared, because this thing's a big ball of muscle, and it just done like 3 loops, like around us, like full on, like, yeah. And I'm just looking at each other like, let's keep moving.
They sound fast.
Yeah, surprisingly, it was quicker than I thought that they would be.
Wow.
And
I've never encountered one, but so I'm interested to hear about these stories, so then I can formulate a plan if it ever happened to me.
Yeah, well, we just stood still, and we just hoped it wasn't going to come straight for our legs, because if it did, I reckon we would have been in a bit of trouble, because it wasn't, you know, it's a ball of muscle, I think, so probably would have knocked you off your feet.
Yeah. Now, Armando, what about sunglasses or any other equipment?
Sunglasses, yeah, a pair of Polaroids will do a lot of different. It will cut the glare out. You'll be able to see trout, or you'll be able to see the bottom of where you want to try and cross the river as well, or you'll see a bit more structure and things like that. So a good pair of Polaroids will do the trick. So yeah.
Would you go fishing without Polaroids?
No, I wouldn't. I'll use them in any light condition, even if it's raining, I'll still put them on, because they still help. And also just to protect your eyes, because you never know if you're going to just like walk into a bush or get a hook in the eye or something.
Spider. Yeah, exactly.
Spider. Yeah. Oh, spiders. No, I don't like spiders.
Leech on the eyeball.
A leech on the eyeball, anything like that. Yeah, just protect the eyes.
Yep.
It's a dangerous sport, fishing.
What about in terms of equipment relating to lures such as clips?
I use lure clips. So depending on what I'm using them for. So I'll see if I can find one. I don't know if you can see it. Can you see it?
Yes.
That's the type of clip I use. It's got like a swivel underneath, and it's connected to like a lure clip.
Yep.
So it can spin. And that's to alleviate line twist from the inline spinners.
And that's mandatory in terms of, at least for you.
For me, yeah, because like instead of just chopping line off and retying something that will take, a minute or two, it's just easier just to unclip it and clip it on. It takes away line twist as well. So you don't have to really worry about having line twist and things like that. So it can help with that.
Do you change lures often and quickly, or do you sort of persist with one for say a period of time?
So I'll normally start with, whether it's a hard body or an inline spinner, I'll normally start with that, and I'll pick a lure to start with. And then, I'll normally have it on for about half an hour to 45 minutes to start off with, and see if I'm getting any hits or any bumps or any follows or things like that. And if it's completely nothing, then I start to change. And then I'll normally give a lure like half an hour, 15 minutes. If I see nothing's happening, no interest, I'll change again. And then I'll keep changing until I find something that they want, and also change my action up as well, or different techniques, however you want to say it.
When we were talking about lures, you mentioned casting upstream, and a lot of people have their own approach. I mean, I know you have strong feelings about this, so I'd like you to explain a bit about that.
So a lot of people say, and I'm not saying that they're wrong by any means, they say cast upstream and then retrieve your lure with the flow of the water. That's because the trout, when they're feeding, they will swim headfirst into the current, and anything that's like drifting down with the water, they'll pick off as they eat. However, I think if you don't cast the other way or bring it up against the current, there are times where if you fish like the normal way, or I don't know how you want to say it, the proper way, the normal way, sometimes that doesn't really, they might not be in a mood of eating, or they might be a bit more shut down for whatever reason, or, sometimes it's just a tough day.
Yep.
Fishing it the other way, you can let the water do most of the work. So you don't have to reel in fast. You could almost sometimes, depending on the water flow, you can just stick your arm out, leave the lure in there, and the water will run over the lure and work itself.
Yep.
So then you can really slowly move it, and then a lot of the times, I think it's more out of aggression more than they're hungry. They will take it. And it works well. Like if you got, undercut banks or overhanging trees next to you that are downstream, you can cast across, let your lure float with the water, and then lock up your bail. And then you can just wind it slowly under the overhanging trees and things like that.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times I've had a lot of success with that as well. I think, I think they grab it more out of aggression than anything, but it works.
That's a fair point. So basically it's not black and white, where if you're going to pull it against the current, you're taking yourself out of the equation.
No, I don't think that's the case. I think people do say that you can spook them or scare them. I think, you can, but I don't think it's it's just that black and white where you can scare them.
Yep.
Because the way I see it is trout swim upstream, or they swim, they just swim in general.
Yeah.
If there's one just chilling.
As opposed to fly in the water.
As opposed to fly or walk. But if there's one just in the current chilling, and then one of them, another, brother trout just decides to swim past it, it's just going to what is that? And just run away. It's probably going to turn around, might get a bit of a fright and be like, oh, it's Bob. Bob's coming past.
Yeah.
So, I just don't buy the whole theory that they get scared and spooked and they just go away, because then how would trout pass another trout?
Yeah, and
without scaring it?
How would you get results if it didn't?
Yeah, then
if it mattered that much. That's right.
Yeah, so that's my opinion on it. But each to their
Are there any differences in your approach depending on the seasons or time of year?
Yeah, there are, yes and no. Like in the warmer months, like summer and stuff, I don't fish it as much as I used to, but I would concentrate more. Either I would get there, I don't know, I'd probably start fishing at 1 p.m. really. Like, because I'll normally try and go into the evening.
Yep.
I find that if it's cooler, well, it kind of depends on the day, I guess, in summer. If it's like a 25-degree day, you can just kind of go whenever. But if it's been like really hot and stinking, I'd probably go more like towards the evening time, like afternoon to evening, and just concentrate more on like maybe faster running water where there's a lot of oxygen, deeper pools or areas where there are shadows as far as like your warmer months. And then when it starts to cool down, it's kind of a bit more open. Like you can, doesn't matter if there's sun beaming on the river or whatever, like they're not just going to be in shadowy places. They'll be where the sun is.
Yep.
Because of not probably, but I think insect life hatches and stuff like that when the water gets to a certain temperature. So with sun comes that kind of stuff. Again, I'm not a scientist. I don't know how it works, but if you see bugs, there are fish.
Yeah.
In effect, yeah. So if you see things hatching and flying, or if you see swallows as well, I think they're swallows, the birds that eat the bugs. If you see them swooping down, there's normally trout around there.
That's interesting. So is there anything you wanted to add further about insect hatches or swallows? Because obviously we've been talking about lures and not, on fly fishing, for example. But obviously I can see that you're basically noticing that there is some sort of effect.
Again, I don't know the science part of it behind it or anything like that, but I have noticed that if there are, I think they're swallows, like the tiny birds.
The ones that fly a centimeter from the water.
Yeah, those ones. Like if you see them like flying and you see like, 3 or 4 of them or 5 of them and they're just around the area and they looks like they're chasing bugs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Normally that's a good indication that there's either, I'm not sure if it's because there are things hatching or if there are things or there are bugs laying eggs or something like that. And so normally if they're there, the trout eat them. So the trout are there as well.
Yep.
So if you see things like that, there are normally trout there. Whether you catch them or not, it's a different story. But normally sometimes if they're really fixated on one type of, like a bug and a nymph, whatever you want to call it, sometimes a hard body or a lure that might not attract their attention.
I've got a big question here, and it's about your day and what it involves. I want to know all the details, all the gory bits, the funny bits, starting from when you wake up, or even actually starting from the night before if you want to.
All right, so the night before, I get all my stuff ready. So I do my leaders, I do my lines, I tie my hooks, I tie my lures to the line, get it all ready, backpack, everything in the car, ready to go.
Getting G'd up overnight.
Watch some YouTube clips,
Yep.
And then, the next day I'll put my alarm on, hit snooze about 10 times. And, and then, get up. First thing, coffee, cigarette, get everything percolating, toilet, shower, another coffee.
Yeah, get all the plumbing working.
Got to get rid of all that. We don't want any mishaps while we don't want to be running to don't want to be digging holes up there.
Yeah.
But get in the car, go. The first stop is at Hillsville, normally at the bakery, another coffee. Otherwise, it's a long day without.
You've had coffee. About 3 coffees already.
Yeah, I'm normally up to 4 at about this point. I've got to. Otherwise, no caffeine. It can get violent. No, I'm joking. And then after that, it's through the Black Spur, which is pretty fun. It's a very windy road for about 15 kilometers.
Yep.
So, you know, kind of channel my inner Michael Schumacher.
Ah, yes, right, yeah. He was the rainmaster, that guy.
Oh no, he was the rainmaster. So if you have a car that's very enjoyable, you can enjoy yourself on the way up as well. Yeah, and then drive all the way up, and that's it really. That's all the fun part, and then it's down to business. Making your way through the cows and the wombats and trying to find somewhere to go.
Yeah. And then realizing that you left a pair of braid scissors at home and...
Oh, yeah. Realizing that you've left something at home, or you've misplaced the pliers, or you've left something somewhere else somewhere. Oh,
yeah, your whole tackle box. You got one lure on each rod, and that's all you have because you forgot everything else.
Because you've forgotten everything else, or you've forgotten there's always something you forget.
Yeah.
And then when you get up there, you're just like, oh, no. So, yeah, or you forgot the net.
And then you start catching fish, and that's normally how it happens.
Yeah, you start catching fish, and then, it's normally, oh, crap, I forgot this, or crap, I forgot that, or, there's always something.
Yeah.
You've always forgotten. So, yeah, that's how I start my day.
All right. Armando Mercurio, thanks for talking Victorian trout with us today. Look, this is one of the more enjoyable podcasts, most definitely. I think we got into the groove of things. I love that last answer. I'd like to ask you if you have anyone that you'd like to thank, any people in your life or any sponsors, that sort of thing.
As far as sponsors, I have none. So yeah, I've got no sponsors to
your
thank.
Your 4 coffees?
My 4 coffees, I would like to actually thank DeLonghi coffee machines for providing me with a good coffee machine, and Lavazza beans for helping me get up out of bed in the morning. So I would like to thank them. But more on a serious note, I'd probably like to thank Aussie Angler, because the guys there have always looked after me, especially the owner. He's a mad trout fisherman, and he's taught me a lot. Family, and probably, I think, I don't know if I can say this, but I'd actually like to thank Greg from the ALF podcast as well, because his podcast has given me a lot of inspiration to do better. And and thank you, of course. And
thanks, Armando.
That's all right.
It was my pleasure.
Yeah, keep up the good work with your YouTubing. I do enjoy having a good laugh. So
awesome.
I'll see what you're up on your adventures.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah. So thanks for that as well.
All right, ladies and gents. I'd actually like to extend an invitation to anyone that wants to come on to the show and share their expertise. Just send a message on any of my socials or drop a comment on one of my YouTube videos. I'll be able to find it. And yeah, we'll try to get you on. And hope you enjoyed this show on the Shroom Live podcast. This is the Shroom signing out.